I thought I knew what a healthy diet was and how to live life to your fullest potential when it comes to health and fitness. But hey, I learn something new all the time. And this documentary right here is definitely showing me some new ways to go about things and think about things when it comes to health, fitness, and then what you eat and put in your body. What's popping, y'all? We back with another episode of this podcast, going over some movies, films, documentaries, etc. And today we focusing on the brand new Netflix documentary called "You Are What You Eat: A Twin Experiment." It actually just came out, so 2024 release. We hitting it early, hitting it hard, and basically this I picked it because I saw 2024. I was like, oh, I didn't know something was coming out this early. So I said, why not? Because it was either this or Rebel Moon. Maybe we'll do Rebel Moon next, but as of now, we doing this. So this little documentary is it's a documentary, but it's kind of an immersive documentary where it's in real time. And so what that means is like it's not talking about something way in the past or something like that. It's like these people just did the experiment several months ago, or yeah, several months ago, I believe, and they're just showing it now. So it's something that you can feel is kind of immersive to an extent. But yeah, different kind of documentary. And what it is, it's focusing on what you put in your obviously what you put in your body, and it's getting two sets of twins, and they're doing an experiment on them, both mainly being one is eating a omnivore diet and one is eating a vegetarian diet. Now, if you don't know what an omnivore is, that means omnivore diet is that means you eat meat. And the other vegetarian or vegan diet, sorry, you don't eat meat clearly, and no meat, no seafood, just vegan food. And yeah, I saw that and I was like, okay, this could be pretty interesting. I'm a health nut myself, not a nut, but a health guy myself. I try and watch what I eat. I watch what I put in my body. I watch, I make sure I go to the gym, exercise often. And, every year I have a new set of rules when it comes to my diet and what I decide to cut out and bring in. And this year, actually, I decided to cut out Ritz crackers. It's day 3, and I'm losing it right now. So pray for me, y'all. Got a long ways to go, but we making it. But yeah, saw what it was about a little bit because I assumed it was about food just because of the title and the cover photo. And yeah, this is a 4 episode documentary. Each episode is a little less than an hour, about 40, 50 minutes each. Not pretty easy watch, nothing too crazy. So today we're going to focus on the first 2 episodes, and then we'll get to the next 2 episodes in the next one. So it's going to be real quick, real simple, real easy. But I separated in two because there was a lot of information going on. And if I put this all in one, it might take a while. So that's what it's about. And I'm all about this, man. I like things like this that's putting people on game to what's really going on when it's coming stuff that's coming inside your body and going out. And because a lot of people ignore it. They're like, oh, I don't care what I eat. Like, America's obese as hell, and people just buy and eat whatever the hell they want. They don't care. Then they're feeding it to their kids, and then it just comes to a cycle that's never ending of unhealthiness and essentially, diabetes and over obesity and a whole bunch of things that I am very against. I'm very pro healthy lifestyle, exercise, living right, eating right, and then you're going to be living right. So, yeah, I definitely am 100% on board with what this documentary has going on, and I love that. I try not to be watch things that I only like. I wouldn't have watched this if I wasn't gonna look into it or do the podcast. But I make sure I watch things that I probably don't know about, or things that I might like, or that I might not like. I'm not picking things just based off my interests alone. I'm picking things just because it's up on Netflix, and that's what we doing right now, y'all. So yeah, so we'll get started. So episode 1 is beginning, and we find out that Stanford is running this experiment. So Stanford running this experiment, they got that money. They got that money, so they can definitely do some things with it, and combine Stanford money with Netflix money. That's like the two royal houses, the Capulets and the Montagues, forming and actually getting along and making the kingdom theirs. So it seems like they got everything that they need. It seems like it. Yeah, so they have a disclaimer before the episode. This is to inform, not to recommend advice. They leave that on there for a few seconds. I understand that. It's kind of like you can't give out financial advice because you don't have the license or whatnot. And you can't give out this kind of advice because they don't have the license or whatnot. Take this as advice, y'all. Too take it as advice. I'll tell you that. So we get started and we find out we meet all these sets of twins and we find out so they find out this is interesting. There's 20 sets of twins participating at this experiment, but we only focus on 4 sets of twins. Interesting. I know you can't focus on every single one of them, and they had to narrow it down to whichever ones. I'd be kind of mad if I was doing it and I wasn't the ones picked. But they decided to go with two Asian women who are a little overweight. They're older. They're sisters, of course. Two brothers that are like low 20s, pretty fit. Two white guys that are about mid 30s, I'd say, about 6'5", no, normal looking guys. And then two black women who I believe come from a South African descent. And they're a little overweight as well. So you got some fair variety and whatnot. I like that. I wish we kind of got healthy men, unhealthy women, healthy woman, unhealthy woman, sets of twins to focus on. But hey, beggars can't be choosers because it seems like both the guys are decently healthy sets of twins, and then both the women sets of twins are kind of unhealthy. So that's just what we doing though, y'all. That's what we doing. The twins are talking about what they ate growing up. They're talking about what they like, the standard American diet, which is called sad. I thought that was pretty clever and funny. The American diet is pretty sad, y'all. It's hard to go to the store and find healthy foods that are affordable, healthy foods that are not processed. It's very difficult. You really got to read the fine print on things. Especially me coming from Missouri, that's just not what people are looking for. I mean, going to Whole Foods, sure, that's helping a lot, but for the most part, people are just kind of like, we're, it's hard out here. You can't be too picky with what you're getting, and people got to live their lives, but definitely it's more so on the companies, I think, themselves to try and push that to make these things affordable for the people because I don't blame people for buying what they have to eat. Now, I do blame them for eating too much and becoming overweight and obese. I do blame people for that, but just the cost alone, it's hard. So I understand why that's seen. But hey, other countries are doing good, so why can't America? Why can't America? Questions, questions, questions. But yes, the American diet is not healthy, as we all know. We all know someone obese in our life. Every single person in America. So they decide that twins are the best people to use and as an experiment in this experiment because they have the same I can't even talk right now. They have the same biology and their chromosomes match more so than any other people they can. So then they can test one. That would be like putting the two rats in the cage and giving one kind of food and one kind of the other kind of food. That's the best way you can do it with actual human beings, is to use the twins. And I already said what kind of people we're using. And so for 4 weeks, the twins will be provided a delivery service, kind of like Factor Food, that will send them food. And one, like I said, one's getting vegan food, one getting regular omnivore food, a meat-based diet and plant-based diet, essentially. I'm down with that, The only the only thing about this is, which is a big puts a big asterisk next to it, is that they're not monitored. They're like, okay, here's the food, and we trust you guys to make sure you're staying true to your diet. Uh, that was like when I saw that, and I was like, oh wait, they're not gonna be someone. They're not gonna put them in like this location and have them just do it. Not like maybe in a house or something like that, or monitored and whatnot. I know that's very difficult, and then you would have to pay these people money to do that, a lot of money, to live their lives 4 weeks, kind of confined and whatnot. But I think that's the only way you can truly get these results you want to see, by fully monitoring them and making sure that they're not cheating. Because these people could be cheating, eating, okay, I'm gonna sneak this, I'm gonna sneak that, I'm gonna sneak this. And they're just hoping on honesty, which I'm not saying these people are dishonest or anything like that, but they're only human. You know, if they sneak a meal here or there, they're gonna think, oh, it's no big deal. It's just this one time. But it does matter. The little things do matter for this big experiment because they spending a lot of money, a lot of Netflix money on this thing. So that part, I wasn't the biggest fan when I found out that they're not monitored, but it is what it is, y'all. I mean, put some cams in the house or something, but hey, that's what we working with. So, well, yes, the two twins are getting different sets of diets. So the plant diet has more plant diet they said has more antioxidants, fiber, pectin, phy, phytonutrients, vitamin A, and vitamin C. A meat-based diet has more B12s, calcium, iron, omega 3, protein, and vitamin D. So each one provides different things, but you can get those things that the meat gives you from a vegan diet as well. It's just depending on what you eat. And they're testing the pros and cons of each diet. One, one set of twins, the two black women from South African descent, they're caterers, and they're not too excited about this because they're around food all day. You know, I've worked with food before. I've worked in catering and whatnot, and it's at restaurants, etc. And it's very, very difficult to go through your whole day working and you're around food all day without just nibbling a little here and nibbling a little there because you don't really get much of a break in the food industry. And you're around the food, and you know, if you're cooking, especially, you want to try it. You know, you want to test it out to make sure it's good and whatnot. And you're just naturally hungry being around it all day. You're sniffing it, you're smelling, you're breathing it. So that they have the hardest task, as well as, you know, already kind of eating what they want to eat. I feel for those sisters. They set them up to fail. Mm, mm, mm. They got the hardest task available, but it is what it is. You know, they signed up to do it, so hopefully they can overcome this trial and succeed. But it's looking peak for them, and they not too happy about it either. And so before they get started, they need to also test their poop and blood, which was interesting, I guess, just to see. They're testing every little tiny thing to make sure that every centimeter, ounce, droplet is measured to make sure that they're getting the right accurate information. Because this is Stanford, you know, like this experiment gonna go with some textbooks down the line, and these people gonna be learning about this in school, y'all. This is very important, very important, and these people cannot stress that enough. I mean, they are putting in the time and the money for this. I cannot stress that enough. Then we meet the white guy twins, and they're known as the cheese twins because they worked heavily in it in the past. They're like cheese this, cheese that. I like, you know, they Green Bay Packers mixed with Mickey Mouse mixed with Jerry. You know, it's cheese this all over the place, and they say they eat cheese every single day, which is a lot of cheese. They might need to get checked actually. Interesting. But yeah, they seem like nice guys. They're tall. They're two tall dudes. They look the exact same. Twins, of course, obviously. And so the testers say that they are looking at four main things when it comes to the whole entire process, the tests before, during, and after. Body composition, which is, you know, the amount of fat that you have on your body, like compared to muscle and whatnot. You get it. It's self-explanatory. The biological clock, which is basically how much you're estimated to live, how long you're estimated to live. That's your biological clock. Your microbiome, which we'll get there later because I don't remember that off the top of my head, but it's in my notes. And the brain. Because what you eat also kind of affects your brain, you know, and what you can take in your body. So then we meet also the older Filipino twins, the women. Uh, they were born in the Philippines and then they immigrated to the U.S. And they kind of talk about, you know, their upbringing with the food and whatnot and how they manage eating. So Filipino food is very spice heavy, I believe they said, and adds a lot of extra ingredients to it. So it has a lot of flavor and whatnot. But it's also a lot of extra stuff that you kind of don't need on food. But I'm sure it tastes good. I never had Filipino food. If you have had it, let me know what you think. And so we find out there's a cultural way obviously there's a cultural way Americans eat the way that they do, and they get into the part of explaining why Americans have the habits they do. And we find out that post World War II, Americans were not qualifying for the military because they were too thin. And that's pretty interesting. You know, I do know, looking at pictures back in the day, the people I see, like one example is the beach pictures I see back in like the 40s, the 50s. Everyone was in shape. There was no obese people. Everyone was looking like they had a decent body comp. And that's because I think that back then they said that they weren't processing foods the same way they were doing now. And the reason they said it was to qualify for the military, they need to hit a certain weight. And so they're like, okay, what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? That's around the time, McDonald's and all these other fast food things started popping up to kind of, they process foods a little differently to put this weight on. Now, that's kind of a crazy thing to hear because that's the government, The military is the government. And they're saying they're not thin enough, and then all of a sudden they start doing these things, and everyone starts getting bigger and obese, and it's just like over time, I'm just like, wow, like it's kind of the government's fault that we have this stuff going on in my head. I was like, it's interesting, yo. It's very, very interesting. I'm gonna try and take a little more deeper look into that, but yeah, when I saw that, I was like, I never thought about that. I never really thought about the post World War II people weren't qualifying for the military part. And yeah, soon like the low cost foods, like the cheap foods, were becoming the norm. And I guess back then, all the food was kind of the same, but then they needed people to gain weight, so they raised the prices of, the healthy food that would keep them thin to get more people to qualify for the military. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. They say factory farms decreased the cost to make food, which saved a lot of money. So that as well, happens to deal with the government as well. They're decreasing the cost to save money at these farms, and then that the whole thing trickles down into one kind of seamless cycle. All smells a little fishy to me. And but they also mention, however, if things do not change, then dire results will happen in the future. And also, I didn't know, the way the food farms they operate, they send out gases in the air that's basically toxins to the environment and have an effect on global warming at these processing farms, which I was like shocked. I was like, wow. So it was just a lot. It was a lot of information in, but it makes sense though. It's all making perfect sense to me. So yes, we get to it, and we find out in many areas of America, access to healthy foods are not available. They focus on this one town, San Bernardino, which is where the first McDonald's was made, and the community was impacted with that by that heavily. And so once the first McDonald's was made in San Bernardino, kind of like all these other similar places, fast food places get popping up, and that's pretty much all there was to eat in the town. The local grocery stores, they kind of went out of business, the small ones. The farmers markets weren't going there anymore. It was crazy. And then that has an effect on the whole entire community. And I think they said that community is one of the most unhealthy communities in the whole entire country. Wow, that is insane. And we find out right across the street, literally 5 miles away, there's this town called Loma Linda. And the population is estimated to live a decade longer than the people of San Bernardino, and they live 5 miles away. And Loma Linda also has access to a lot of healthy foods. I think they banned certain chains of going in there, and they banned certain things that can be sold in that town. Not banned, but they just don't sell them there. And I was like, and they say most of the people in that town are vegetarian. And that's crazy to me because that's like New York being plant based and Jersey being meat based. And it just makes you think a little bit like, wow, like if this town can kind of do something like that and get the whole community around this one idea to help make things better for everyone as a whole, and they're living 10 average of 10 years longer, I don't know how much more facts and information that you need, but that's insane to me. I mean, that's very eye-opening, and it kind of shook me. That part kind of shook me a lot watching it, just because if eating food, even if you exercise, like I exercise a lot and I'm healthy, but even if you eat unhealthy and exercise a lot, your life expectancy could still be longer if you just ate a little bit better, which is insane. Yeah, I didn't really ever think about the food you eat too much to an extent, giving you an estimated longer life. I knew, of course, obesity and whatnot will cut you short, give you diabetes, heart problems, all that, but 10 years compared to just the town next door on the average population just because of the food they're eating, that's crazy. That's crazy, but we learning a lot during this thing. We learning a lot, y'all. I love the information that they spreading out there because they spreading that positive information that people need to hear, not what they want to hear. And so we see that a lady said if one loses a lot of weight compared to the other, then it will make them a lot less twin like. One of the twins said that, which I thought was kind of silly. I mean, you're just different weights. That doesn't mean you're not twins anymore. So you want to continue to stay overweight because your twin is? I don't fly with that thinking, coach. I'm gonna rethink your thought process on that one. And the Filipino woman said when she was finally able to have one piece of pizza when she moved to America, she finally felt like an American. How far we fallen, America. How far we have fallen. Mm, mm, mm. That's what people in these other countries thinking. We got to look at ourselves in the mirror, America, and say, what do we really want to be representing? Do we really want to be represented by hot dogs, pizza, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A? All these things that are, yes, our American culture, but things that are not good. Why can't our culture be something that's something good? Like you see Sweden and Denmark, they have their water, the air, you know. Paris with the baguettes. I mean, baguettes ain't the most healthy thing in the world, but it's better than a piece of pizza. I mean, even Britain, fish and chips. I mean, fish and chips ain't the best healthy, my point is, it's all better than pizza and hot dogs and French fries. It's time that America needs to kind of look itself in the mirror. The people need to look themselves in the mirror and realize that you can't go through life saying, "Well, I don't care. I'm doing what I want to do. I don't care about anybody else." You kind of gotta care to an extent. It's fine to do your own thing and not worry about the others' judgments upon you, but what about your kids' judgments upon you? What about the youth judgments upon you in your home community? Do those matter? Things that make you go, hmm. So yeah, just be mindful of these things, y'all. People are watching, and what you do can have an effect on others, especially the things that you eat. Especially things that you eat. But yes, we move and we find out that cheese, we talk about cheese for a little bit, is biologically addicting. I co-sign with that. Cheese is addicting because whenever you put cheese on something, it just make it pop. It just make it lock. It just make it drop. I love some cheese too. I stopped eating cheese a lot less and a lot dairy a couple years ago. I cut that out a lot. I only drink almond milk. Um, Try not to eat too much cheese, but slowly I've gotten back into that. But after watching this, I probably ain't eating cheese too much anytime soon, coach. Cheese has this thing called a casomorphin, and cheese is filled with saturated fat, rises cholesterol, and can cause heart disease, cancer, prostate cancer, etc. Wow. And that's why, a lot of dairy can cause these things and the problem they get into this little segment to where you all remember that little campaign they had growing up, if you a 90s baby in school, and they had a poster in your lunchroom or anywhere in the whole school. People with the milk mustaches, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, everybody has these milk mustaches, and it seemed like, okay, drink milk. Milk is healthy for you. Milk is healthy for you. Milk is healthy for you. Milk is good for you, but as a baby, it's better for you then, and then maybe up to a certain age, I'd say, to grow your bones. But then your bones stop growing at a certain age, clearly, and then, it's time to put the bottle down. But we never do put the bottle down. We keep the bottle in our mouths and sucking on it when we shouldn't continue to. Especially cow milk, especially cow milk. I think almond milk, soy milk, and some other kind of milk. Any other milk besides cow milk and 1%, 2%, I think is okay. I'll look into that more, but I'm pretty sure that's fine. But yeah, it was kind of another thing that was fed to us by the mass media Hollywood that was not true. Just like cigarettes way back in the day, they thought cigarettes was good for you, but it wasn't. And so it's a lot of misinformation always being spread to us, and we really kind of got to look at a lot of different sources. And nowadays, we do have access to all these things. So back in the day, unfortunately, we didn't have the accessibility to kind of really research and know, is this good for us or is it bad for us? We just kind of had what was there shown. And, if Michael Jordan's has a milk mustache, I want a milk mustache. I get it. And that's kind of has a still has an effect today, because people are like, oh, well, milk grows healthy bones. Yeah, so it's hard to kind of jump out of that mindset, especially when your idols are doing it and did it and promoted that. So maybe they should start a new campaign. I haven't seen any new campaigns going on yet. I saw the milk campaign, the Honey Nut Cheerios, the Frosted Flakes. Where's the new campaign? I haven't seen it, y'all. Come on, Hollywood and star profiled people, step up to the plate. It's time. It's time. So yes, a lady said if one loses a lot of weight compared to, I said that. Cheese, cheese, cheese. So, and they also explained that this is why milk is meant for baby calves, not adults, because baby calves only drink from their mothers till a certain point, and then they stop needing the milk. But humans don't stop with the milk. They just keep going and going and going and going until, you know, they're dead. Dairy industry spent years trying to make it seem like milk was essential, or else you wouldn't have enough calcium as well. Americans eat 650 pounds of dairy products per year. I believe that, and probably more. That's probably spitting too low. And so they get into the talking about the other countries, and they compare they use their percentages of dairy that they intake. And America is the country, of course, that consumes the most dairy. I mean, it said 90% of Asians are lactose intolerant. There's a reason. No stereotypes. I'm not talking about stereotypes, but more Asians, on fact, I see are thinner than on the average American because they don't really drink dairy like that because they're probably ahead of the game when it comes to this food healthiness. Like, come on, America. We got to catch up and quit being have a big ego. It's okay to learn from other countries and cultures and get on with the game because we behind right now. We need to catch up and even the score or something, score a few points here and there. We down like 100-15 right now. But yes, then we meet this bodybuilder called Nimai Delgado. And he comes up. He's huge. This dude is like ripped, 12 pack, muscles popping, back popping. Like this dude is a beast. And he says that he does not eat meat. He is vegan. And I was like, what? How in the hell are you that swole and vegan? Where do you get your energy, your protein, all these things? And would get he says people would get better sleep, improvement in their sex life, and feel overall better if they did his program and did his diet. And so I looked this dude up. I was intrigued. I had to look this man up on Instagram. This man is popping on Instagram, man. Look him up. Nimai Delgado. Nimai Delgado. And I see some of this stuff that he was posting, and it's definitely good. I mean, his workout program is one thing, but then his diet is another one. And there is such a thing, if you guys didn't know, called plant-based protein. I take it sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And there's ways to get your protein from plants, but he does that a lot. And now the thing is, it's more expensive, is a lot more expensive. So definitely, I understand why everyone cannot do it. But even adding a little bit to your diet, I think, and pushing that out a little bit more is definitely going to do dividends in the long term of things. And so this guy's a really good example. I mean, I followed him, and I'm kind of going to see what he does and trying to emulate it a little bit to see if it has results for me. Hopefully, I can get a workout with him one day. If you're watching this, my brother, I need a workout and I need that meal plan because I need that. He got that like summer body that don't go away type stuff. Now he does work in the gym and live in the gym, so he better have it. But you can see it. You just like his skin's real clear. He seems real tentative. Like this dude definitely he knows what he's talking about. And so he's going to give each set of twins this training program that he does. And but first, all the twins are going to do a DEXA scan. So a DEXA scan basically is a scan that tells you how much fat and muscle you have in your body. I did plenty DEXA scans in college. We had the machine, and it's basically this big machine you lay flat on, and this machine goes slowly across your body and back. It probably takes a good 20, 25 minutes. And it's very, very accurate. I mean, in college, I think I had 11% body fat, 11 to 12% body fat, but we had certain goals that we had to hit for our positions, and everybody did this on the team. But it was cool because you really got to see everything where you had the fat at mostly, what areas you kind of needed to focus on if you're trying to lose weight, where areas you had muscle in, areas you didn't have muscle in, or as much muscle in. So this definitely was a cool thing. I was definitely, I could relate to that because I've done it before. So it was really cool to kind of see that as well on the TV screen. They say BMI isn't the best thing because it doesn't calculate muscle mass. And they say BMI is basically dog shit. So body mass index, because body mass index, it doesn't, it just tells you, it's one of those charts where it's like, oh, if you're 6 foot and you're a boy and you're age 25, and you weigh 220 pounds, you're overweight and you're obese and you're not healthy. That's not true because you could be super healthy, but it doesn't count the muscle mass. It doesn't, factor that in. And that's a big implementation on things. In my age group slash thing, I've always been obese or overweight or at high risk, but I've always been really healthy. So the BMI, if y'all ever see somebody ask you to get your BMI and it's not healthy, look at the charts, just say to the left, to the left. Put that BMI on the box to the left because it ain't right. It ain't right. So then we find out what microbiome is. We get to the microbiome part, and it's a hot topic in today's health industry. Hot topics, hot takes. The microbiome is a complex community of microbes that live in our digestive tract and, go through how quick you burn calories, the digestive time, etc., all those things and whatnot. I don't really know anything about I didn't really know anything about the microbiome, so that was a brand new thing. I felt like I was in school watching. I was in school in science class or health class watching one of those documentaries that you gotta like really pay attention to, and your teacher's gonna give you a test the next day in class. But it was this one actually, it has to deal with you as a human. It's not talking about the bones, where who cares if you don't know what your fibula is or your phalanges or whatever. These things we have to deal with, so it's very interesting to watch. No offense to the science classes and videos out there. Y'all still real. Just know that. Um, and we find out, yes, DNA is not density. Epigenetics is the way you can use our genes that can be changed, unlike genetics. So epigenetics is basically like that's part of the microbiome, but genetics, yes, we can't change our genetics. That's literally impossible. We're not in X-Men over here, okay? We can't do all that. But we can change our epigenetics, and those are kind of like the things of our muscle mass, our, you know, the health inside our body essentially, and how things are functioning. If things aren't good looking good, we have the ability to change those with certain diet, exercise, eating habits, etc. So if you're unhealthy and think like, oh, I was just born like this, I have big bones, like I can't help that this is like this. You can't help that things are like this. People I hear a lot say it's it's inherited. I've inherited this from my family. Yes, you can inherit certain things, but like diabetes or whatnot, and you have a high risk of having them because of your parents or grandparents. But it's not like an absolute thing. Things can be changed, but you got to make sure you make that change to be able to make the change possible to happen. So, yeah. Then we find out. So they go to talk about biological age, and biological age is the true age of cells and tissues. Biological age can be higher than your chronological age. That was interesting to hear, which I've always said. People always say, "Do you feel your age?" And I'm like, look, I go by a spiritual age. I say I'm my age, but I said I feel like I'm this age, and this finally kind of like proved my point on that. And I always say, if you say you're 40 years old, but you feel like people say, "Oh, I'm 40, but I feel like in the best shape of my life, I feel like I'm 28." That's true. That's true. And those people could probably live way longer than somebody who is their same age but feels like they're 45. And they did a test on this showing that some people that were both 40, one person felt like one person's biological age was higher than the other person. It was crazy. That was the craziest thing. One of the craziest things I've seen in this whole entire uh, documentary. It was just, it was interesting. And what a doctor who's doing this test also says that the biological clock. This other doctor says the biological clock thing is hogwash because people he's worked with for years said nothing has ever changed. And this other doctor is arguing that the biological clock can change. You can change things with, being healthy, eating right, exercise, not smoking, not drinking excessively, not doing heavy drugs. All these things can help your life expectancy last longer. And I 100% believe that. Like, you can't tell me, some people just get lucky and like they might smoke cigarettes until they're 110 years old and still live. But on average, you do the things that'll give you a better healthiness overall in life, you're gonna live longer. Like I feel like that's obvious and like duh, but some of this doctor's like, look, it's not science enough for me. It's all fibs and facts and fads. And I'm like, y'all, look, this doctor need to go get a reality check. Cause I'm like, go ahead and go do the supersize me diet and see how long you feel like you living. Go ahead, do it, coach, and let me see. Cause I don't think you'll be living long enough to tell the tale of time. That's all I gotta say about it. But yes, we find yes, most people in America die from diet related issues. Clearly. 90% of America was once in a beef lot. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's facts. Most Americans do eat beef. I mean, I eat beef and meat, especially coming from the Midwest, Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, all these states. They put beef on a high pedestal. I mean, Kansas City is known for barbecue, and everyone argues about which is the best barbecue. People in Iowa probably argue about which is the best pork. I don't know what other states argue about, but it's a big thing. And America might be the only state that be arguing about these things, which goes to show you how kind of lost in the sauce we are. And people say I could never ever ever give up beef. Now I said that as a child, but as an adult, I could sure give that up if I had a viable option, affordable option as well. But after watching this, I might. Who knows? And yeah, it's definitely they could talking to go into like it's a racial, economic, and climate issues all play into the effect of diet issues. And so, you know, culturally, yes, black folk, we eat a lot of meat. That's a cultural thing, but it's not the most healthy thing always. And some people need to realize that. A lot of people that I know, a lot of people in my family who don't eat right and need to know that it's not okay, No, but everyone's kind of afraid nowadays to call things out and say you might want to check your diet because for health things and whatnot. And everyone's just gonna, you know, throw everyone softballs and give compliments like, oh, like you're squeezing into that tiny dress, but you're killing it. You're killing it. Like go off. You're not going off. You're gonna go off the grid soon if you don't hurry up and fix something and check yourself. Or else you're gonna be sitting on a plane paying for two seats. I mean, I've always been a very, very big health advocate and very anti-obesity just because it's something that you can control. It's something that you could control and something that you should pay attention to because I don't do this whole look. Everyone has different things and whatnot, but if you have working legs and you have a working functional body, you're not in a wheelchair, you're not paralyzed, you're not anything that's keeping you back from walking and running. You need to kind of have a healthy lifestyle in generally. I don't know why you wouldn't want to because that you have one body. Take care of it or else you're going to have one broken body and you're going to be self-conscious, you're not going to be confident. I don't want to hear the whole Lizzo thing where it's like, "Oh, I'm comfortable in my own skin." That's fine to be comfortable in your skin. Go ahead, but if being bigger wouldn't have negative health effect issues, I would have no problem with. I would have no problem with it whatsoever. But it does have negative health issues, and it can cause problems, heart problems at that, lung problems at that, diabetes at that, many things. And people are just so caught up in this. Well, it's my body. I'm going to do what I want, and don't body shame me. Don't body judge me. Nobody's body shaming anyone. They're just trying to send some positive advice to help you understand what's good, what's healthy for you, and what's not. It's not about that. If people would think of things other than criticism, then we become a lot further as a community. But too many people are stuck in their own head, stuck in their own, membrane about being judged and people hating on them when they're not hating at all. They're just trying to help. I wish if I was obese or overweight, I wish someone would tell, hey, like maybe you should, put the chicken wing down, or do you want to come to the gym or something like that? But people don't want to say that to those people because they don't want to be attacked and seem like they're hating or being mean to someone. When really they're just offering the best thing and the most kind thing they could give is advice to help expand their life expectancy and make them live a better, healthy life. That's just me. But people nowadays are kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and it's sad to see that how many souls are lost in the sauce. But yes, that ends episode 1, and we get to episode 2, and starts out with episode 2 with this part was really weird. I didn't understand this part, but the twins they were watching porn to test out their genital arousal, and they were testing out the meals that they have and if it has an effect on sleep and sexual arousal. Now, I didn't know what the point of this part was. I was watching it. I watched it back again. I was trying to look. Now okay. This is what they did. I did take this note. So it turns out they found out that a vegan gives you better sexual stimulation than if you're only eating meat, which is very interesting. Very very interesting. I've heard that. I feel like I've heard that somewhere before, but they did a test and they showed the dude with meat, the dude that was vegan, and when they were sleeping, and he was like, they got the heart chart, like if you dead or alive, whatnot, your heart beating, and then his through the night would just be going like this because he was he was getting excited during the sleep. I was like, what? So you tell me if I eat go vegan, then I'm gonna be better in bed? Is that what you're telling me, Coach? Because I'm about to go to Target right now and pick up some fresh kale and celery sticks. You know what I mean? I mean, I know blueberry. Thing is, I know blueberries help out your sexual whatever a lot. Like helps you, become more erect, I guess, as a guy. But I didn't know the whole vegan thing did. I had no idea. So maybe I'll have to do my own little experiment. Who gonna be my experiment partner? Just playing. But yes, that was a very interesting part. So they give these. This is the weird part too. This part was whole kind of weird. They give these people this porn just to watch with the doctor sitting right there, and they're just watching it with the doctor. It was like, what are you doing? And they didn't let the people pick what kind of porn they wanted to watch. They just gave it to them, you know. And the people were saying that they weren't even into the porn. They liked porn. They watched porn, but they weren't into the ones that they gave them, so it didn't really do anything. So why would you give these people just random porn and expect that to get the job done when they twins the Filipino twins, they said they like cartoon porn. So the porn they gave them wasn't gonna do nothing, but they had the porn they wanted to, they might have popped something off. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like these are why would you give somebody porn but not the one they watched? I mean, there's a million types out there. That part was just weird. I'm like, you guys are literally losing yourself in the music, losing themselves and messing up their own little experiment while doing it. They said the black twins like the cartoon porn more. So then we find out that, the two Filipino twins, Carolyn and Rosalind, have high blood pressure. Not shocked. John and Javon, they need to put on more muscle. Wendy and Pam need to lose weight and are at risk of diabetes, the Filipino twins. And then we get to, this is interesting as well. The New York mayor, Eric Adams. I live in New York, so I was like, what's popping? What you gonna do about all this craziness that's popping off in the city? And can you lower these prices of this rent, control this rent a little bit? Can you, fix the mess that's always going on that we never get done? But he's on here and he's talking about when he had an ulcer and he went to the doctor. They said he was gonna lose his sight. Eventually, he would lose some fingers and toes as well. Talking all these crazy things that happened when he went to the doctor. And the main thing that he found out that he could change about his potential getting diabetes is the way that he eats, because apparently he was eating very unhealthy at the time, and that was the cause of all these things that was going on. Which I'm like, I didn't know the food you eat affects your eyesight, affects you getting things amputated, affects, I knew it affects your appearance and like you can get an ulcer, but that was crazy. That's crazy. I didn't know that, and I didn't get this. They didn't really show a before picture of how he looked when he was there, so we didn't get that much transparency on that aspect. But yeah, that was interesting to hear that from Eric Adams. So you find out the USDA purposefully makes it confusing to know how much meat you should consume. That is facts. They have all those facts in the bottom, and they have the real things that you should know in this tiny small print that no one's ever gonna read. They're just looking at the food. They need to plaster it on the front to give people the transparency. But then again, we don't want to give the transparency because America's a capitalist economy, and we're just gonna do what we need to do out here to get the bag and forget everybody else and hope good luck to you. That's basically what time it is when it comes to this food at these supermarkets. Just keep your eyes open, y'all, and check on what you're getting. Check on what you're getting. So we and Eric Adams comes back and he says that he's talking about how he went to a plant-based diet instead of taking medicine, and it helped reverse the issues because they gave him a bunch of pills and they're like, here, take all these pills, one for this, one for this, one for this, and he's like, nah, I ain't gonna do that, but I'm gonna just check this diet out and see if it worked. And it was helping and it worked. And he proved these doctors wrong. Now, this story seems a little bit of hot sauce put on the chicken, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, come on now. Like, just randomly, like, okay, this guy goes against his doctor's orders when he has all these issues and says, oh, I'm just gonna eat healthy, and then it fixes. Come on now, coach. I wasn't born yesterday. Now, there might be some truth to the story, but maybe there was a doctor, somebody that recommended maybe, hey, try this first. I don't believe you just didn't take all these pills. This is not a Disney fairy tale movie. Just be transparent with this, okay? Like, that just does not seem all the way there. But essentially, that's what he says, and he got all the way better. Yeah, interesting. So then we also find out, yes, eating red meat / processed meats increase the risk of colon cancer, similarly to how cigarettes can cause lung cancer. All going hand in hand. That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So we finally get to the point of the twins getting their meals. So they're being giving these meals from the company, Netflix, Stanford, or whatever, whoever's giving the meals. They don't really specify which company, I don't believe, but it's kind of like a Factor Foods type of thing. But yeah, they get the meals and they're pretty much microwavable things. They just pop them up to the microwave, boom, they're good. So pretty simple. There's no reason not to eat these meals except the fact that they're not tasty or they're not fulfilling. But they're doing the experiment. Hopefully, they're getting paid because of this. And yeah, they're getting some exposure though. So if you could be getting paid, but you just gotta know what you're doing with it, coach. So yes, they get their meals. And the vegan meals actually look decent. I'm looking at them. Okay, they don't look too bad. So I could probably rock with those. I've had some vegan meals and whatnot, and they're not bad if they're made right because they give them like tofu and meat that's not meat, plant-based meat or something like that. As long as it tastes like meat, then they're fine with it. So But yeah, they don't seem too bad. And we find out this is a funny part. So we find out Rosalind, one of the Filipino twins, is a high school teacher. And so what they do is they go to work with her. So they follow her to the school, and she's teaching math, I believe it was. I can't remember what subject it was, but she was teaching. And you see the camera panning on all these kids and whatnot, and they look like they on their best behavior. Like she came and they're like, "Look, y'all, we got Netflix in here today, so don't be acting up in my class. Don't be saying nothing crazy. I want you to be quiet and sit your butts down." Because when she's cameras were on, these kids seemed a little too well behaved. I used to be a teacher, y'all. I seen how these kids act, and there is no way that that's a normal day in class. Because she was up there scribbling on the chalkboard, making sure like being real serious, because she did say she's a rule follower and she likes keep the rules going and whatnot, but it just seemed a little inauthentic when it came to the kids, coach. I didn't believe that, kids. Y'all ain't fooling me. I know y'all was acting up before class and after class because Netflix is in the building. So y'all definitely, especially the kid who said it was kids. So they gave the kid some commentary, and they said what did the girl, they were in a group and they were talking about like what's healthy for you, what's not healthy for you, which I don't think she was teaching a health class. I don't know why they were talking about that, but she probably was at some point explaining what was going on with the cameras. And this one kid said, "Well, I eat whatever I want, and I don't really care." Guarantee that kid usually act bad in class because he looked like, I could just see in his face he looked like a troublemaker. But it was just funny because I know these kids were not. That's not how they be acting. They was front for the camera, so y'all ain't sneaky. Y'all ain't get past me. Y'all ain't slick. But we move on, and we find out Rosalind also says that the pandemic caused her to lose herself a little bit when it came to the food. She says some days she just had a long day and mentally was tired, and she just said, "Look, I deserve two bowls of ice cream today." Now, I know a lot of people who coddle themselves like that, a lot, who's like, "Oh, like it's been a long day. Like I deserve these two drinks, or I deserve to eat a whole bag of Lay's chips. I deserve this, I deserve that because of nothing." And I think as a society, we got to stop coddling ourselves. We got to stop saying we deserve things when really we're just going through life and we had a hard time, we had a hard day or something like that. I think that's very toxic. I think that's not good when it comes to the long term effects of things. I mean, reward yourself, sure, but reward yourself for doing something that's worth you know keeping track of. Not because, oh, I made it through the day without cussing. Let me give myself 5 pieces of candy. No, no. There's a reason. I don't really celebrate too much on things. There's very few things I celebrate. And I'm not gonna like, oh, let's take a shot because it's this or it's that or it's this or it's that. No. You can celebrate everything. I have an old roommate, he used to celebrate every single thing. And I'm just like, you stop giving yourselves pats on the backs and giving yourself these little treats because you think you deserve something when you really didn't do nothing. It's just a basic normal thing. And it's a very toxic road to go down. So if you someone who just rewarding yourself for doing the bare minimum, you might need to check yourself and give yourself a higher bar so you can really feel like you achieving something rather than you know, the point blank and the period. Because it's not that difficult, y'all. So just be a little bit hard on yourselves. I guarantee you, it'll help push yourself and make you go a lot further. Trust and believe. But yes, we continue, and we meet Thomas Locke. Thomas Locke is a rancher, and he says his cattle are grass fed. And they go into the fact that 96% of all beef are raised in an industrial beet lot. And beet lot is basically one of those lots where the cows can't move. They're stuck next to each other. They only eat pretty much corn, soy, and other junk essentially. And it's a very they it was a ugly looking environment, I'd say. And I've heard of these lots. I don't know too much about it, but yeah, there's a big difference because the ranch lots where Thomas does his, the cattle were able to run around, the grass looked fresh. Now they might have did a little sleight of hand editing on this, because one with the grass with the rancher Thomas's lot, it looked real plush, real green, real open, real lively, and the other one just had like a orange looking filter on it, and everything just looked real Dune esque. it looked real bleak. So that might have been a sleight of hand tactic. But yes, at the end of the day, yes, the ranches are two different styles, and the grass fed ranches, you do need a lot of space for that. And it's a lot, it looks like more work to cover it because you got to, you have to actually pay attention and see what the cattle are doing and eating and making sure they're good and they're eating healthy. But the cattle themselves looked a lot healthier than the cattle eating this slop. So definitely I did notice that. And what we find out also is cows burp methane, which is worse than carbon dioxide. So when they burp these things, that's stuff coming out their body, and then we're eating the stuff that's in them. We're eating them. So they're eating what they eat, which isn't, is the corn, the soy, all these things, and it's just making it unhealthy and cause and have all these diseases in them. And then we're eating these diseases no matter how well you cook it. They're still in there. They say cows produce more greenhouse gases than industrial complexes. Wow. That was a shocker. I mean, there's a reason I think humans get diseases from these inner diseases from these animals and such, more so diabetes like that, than airborne diseases and keep them. Uh, because those are more effective because they're inside of us. When the airborne diseases are outside of us, and yes, they can cause us sick and whatnot, but not to the point of the stuff that's inside of us. So definitely, once I put those two and two together, it makes sense a lot. They said it's nearly impossible to make enough room for grass-fed farms in the U.S. because you need X amount of land for the X amount of cattle, and the cattle we need is in high demand, and we just don't have the space for it. Even if we we'd have to cut down every single forest in the U.S., and it still wouldn't be enough space. Well, maybe we need to stop eating it as much so we can have space for something like that. I'm gonna start eating less after this. I've seen enough at this point to be like, look, I'll start eating less actively. I mean, I don't eat a ton as it is, but whenever I go out to eat, mostly when I eat the most beef. I probably won't eat any more beef unless it's grass fed. I probably won't. I'm gonna do my best, and that's another thing. 2023, I'm gonna try it. I'm not gonna go full vegan, but I'm definitely gonna make a concerted effort to not eat beef and chicken and steak and pork to the point of I won't eat it when I go out to eat. I will always make sure I kind of make a concerted effort to eat the latter or something else. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep y'all posted on that. But yes, we find that the U.S. is the biggest importer of meat in the world, and most of it comes from the Amazon rainforest. I did not know that either. So as everyone should know, if you don't, go read a book. The Amazon rainforest has been being destroyed for years and years and years and years, and it's pretty sad. But I didn't know that the importation of meat is coming from the Amazon rainforest because they're tearing it down to make these industrial farms. I didn't know that at all. I didn't know why they were tearing down the farm and burning it and whatnot. They burned it to make the land flat and not fertile, but flat and something else. And I was like, wow, so if we stopped eating as much, meat, then we could let the rainforest grow better. And they said every time you eat like a burger, then you're destroying a little bit more of the rainforest. Wow. They really try to make people go vegan after this. They really trying to get people to go vegan after watching this. So they better show this in some elementary schools in Montana and Missouri and Kansas. They really want to get their point across. That's what this needs to be shown. But yes. Then we find out that the black woman chef, she's struggling with the vegan diet, because she's a chef. Like I said earlier, she's around it all the time. So this next part was very interesting for me. Very interesting for me. So we get back to they show a pan of New York, and they go to this restaurant called 11 Madison Park, and it's a vegan restaurant now. No, is it a vegan? They go to this restaurant called 11 Madison Park, and this guy named Daniel Hume is the chef and owner. So he actually used to be my boss. So I used to work at this place called the Nomad Hotel in New York off 28th and Broadway. It was a Michelin star restaurant. It was a hotel, but a Michelin star restaurant at the bottom. One of the best bars in the entire world, uh, called the Elephant Bar. Amazing. I worked upstairs in the events and this magic show that we had going on called The Magician. Great place. I worked there in 2019, 2019, 2020. Yeah, 2019, 2020. And I left obviously because the pandemic happened and the place got shut down. But this place was top tier. Like I would see it be in the kitchen, see these chefs to the T. They like just real fine with everything when it came to putting the cherry on top, to making sure the lining on the sauces was just even on the plates, to making sure the food, they tested every single patty, every burger they put on that grill to make sure it was the exact temperature. It was pristine, precise, and it was on point. I mean, Daniel wasn't playing with these people, and I would see. I mean, he wasn't there all the time because I was at the Nomad. He was at 11 Madison Park, but because they're right next to each other. But they they would be on point. I was very, very, very highly impressed. And when I got the job there, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. Now, I was not the chef and working down there, but I would have to go down there and see them operate, and it would be like you in the military. I mean, it's serious. When chef says something, everyone else repeats it. You know, it was no games to be played. It was definitely people was on pins and needles for a point to where they had Michelin stars. I mean, there was a reason, and every chef apparently wanted to work at this place. Like this was the hottest place and the hottest guy to work for in the city, and he got voted the best restaurant at 11 Madison Park in 2017. And then that trickled all the way up to where I worked, from the service to the bartending to everything. Just his desire to want this restaurant and his business to be on point and not playing no games with nobody. So seeing him on there, I was like, oh shoot, that's coach right there. That's coach. Nah, I didn't talk to him that much. Like he wasn't in my sector, but I knew who he was, and I have his cookbook. Some of the best food I've ever had in my life at that place. If you go to New York and visit, go to 11 Madison Park. It's on point. You ain't gonna be disappointed. It's a little pricey. But it's definitely on point. But he comes and he says, he devoted his life to cooking, where he got his restaurant to become the number one in the world in 2017, won the award. And he soon realized that in the food business, you kind of got to adjust with the times too, as well. You kind of you gotta stay on point and on bar if you really care about what's going on in your restaurant. And he said he soon realized what was going on with the animal farming life and started questioning where the food came from. And so he started making, okay, everything needs to be plant based now. We're not doing no more just regular meat. And he implemented all that stuff going into it. So kudos, props to you for doing that. Definitely, it's not an easy thing as a business owner to do. It's probably cheaper on him to do the latter. But he realized, look, I'm a Michelin star restaurant. My clients are the top clients in the world coming through here. I'm not about to feed them this slop that these other places giving them. We about to give them the best. And he put his money where his mouth is and did it. So definitely kudos and props to this man. I mean, it was a good it was a good time working for him. He definitely helped me in certain aspects, learn a lot of different things, and I appreciated working there. It was a good job to have. It was sad when it left, but that's just what happened because of COVID. But yeah, definitely was cool to see that because I felt like I was a little bit a part in the film, just a little bit, just a little bit, because I recognize the restaurant and I live not even that far from it right now. So definitely cool. So then we find out this thing is called this. We learn of this one industry called confined animal feeding operation, which is CAVO, and it's this thing where hogs are kept and they're sprayed. God, this is disgusting. This is where hogs are kept, the confined animal feeding operation, and the hogs are kept there and they spray hog feces like water sprinklers all around these places. They're mostly like in the South. They do that because they have these big old pools of the hog feces where they obviously, what they do in there, it's feces. Uh, and they don't want too much of that to be stuck in one spot because it just smells horrible. So then they put them in these ground and then spray them out like water sprinklers all over the place to spread it out some, to not have it all centered in one spot, which I thought was disgusting. And then people live near these farms, y'all. People live near these farms. I was disgusted. That was by far the most disgusting thing I think one of the things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they said the smell is so bad. Sometimes the dogs can't even go outside. Dogs eat whatever and can smell whatever. So definitely, some things need to change. Some things need to change. I think things in the farm in the industry needs to change, but we need to change as a people first in our demand for these things. And if we can just do that, we can help things go a long way for the people around us, the younger ones looking up to us, and even the whole world in itself. But it just takes a little bit of starting. I'm gonna try and do my little tiny part, but also for yourself too, your own health. Think about yourself too. So, if you care about yourself a little bit, just check this one out. If you ain't seen, check it out. It's pretty interesting. Uh, Easy watch. Definitely can learn a lot. It's nice to learn things, as every single year. And I'm already learning some new stuff in 2024, y'all. So we gonna get on to part three and part four in our next episode, y'all. So we gonna get there soon. But I appreciate y'all for joining me for this part one of You Are What You Eat. And I'm gonna see y'all real soon because I need to go get something to eat soon myself. Peace and blessings, y'all. Until next time, and have a great rest of